Hello, 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 good morning, and welcome. You are on the mountain with Rick, and it is time for some Splinterlands. We are taking a look today at our Earth deck, doing a deep dive into every card that we own, and as always, we'll be starting off with Alpha, Beta, and Promo cards. We've got a single BCX of Goblin Sorcerer just to get a little magic damage going to the back line. Super useful with Obsidian and a relatively rare ability to combine with magic damage. So we were very happy to pick one up in Alpha, and he has, as you've heard with some of the other Alpha single BCX cards that I have, has paid for himself just in terms of that 10% bonus on additional DEC and SPS earned from battles. And then we have a level 2 Minotaur Warlord, which we pulled the first one from an orb pack. Once again, thank you so much, Matt Clark, for distributing those. And he's just ridiculous with both Magic Reflect and Return Fire. So if you play him under a Mylor or in a Thorns rule set, then he, no matter what kind of damage he is taking, he is doing return damage, which is absolutely incredible, especially with the great healers that are available in the Earth Splinter. He does get even better as we level him up further. He gets Blast at level 3 and then gets a 5th melee damage at level 4, making him absolutely super strong and a powerhouse for damage output. However, he is also very expensive, so I don't see us taking him to level 3 anytime soon, and we are actively not going to take him to level 4 because that 5th damage also becomes kind of dangerous in terms of force field. Moving on to reward cards, and as with all of the other Pellicors, we do have the Pellicor Mercenary maxed out in gold foil at level 10, and he is a beautiful card. We can't wait to be able to actually use this at its full abilities. Of course, we do not have a max level summoner in the Earth Splinter yet. We do have a single BCX of Wood Nymph. Once again, she is super useful with that tank heal at 1 BCX. She does get a lot better once she gets up to level 6 and gets the strength in, and then level 8 with the additional magic damage. But another one of those cards that is just pretty expensive per BCX to actually push into those later levels where she gets significantly better as compared to just having the tank heal at the single BCX, which is still super powerful, and I believe that she is probably better off at that level for you. We're going to go back into the cards. We did not mean to switch from... I'm going to switch over to the market. We do have a level 3 Screeching Vulture. We don't play him all that often, but the flying combined with the opportunity is pretty nice in a lot of circumstances, particularly lower mana games, and having more flyers always helps for the Earthquake rule set. We also have Nectar Queen, one of the very first cards we ever picked up, and we leveled Nectar Queen up because we saw how powerful of a card this was, even before we realized that we actually had to have a summoner of the appropriate level to be able to actually play her. You can see we've got a couple that are delegated to us. We also have a couple delegated out to our other accounts, and it's just a very powerful card that we use everywhere. We don't actually use her as often nowadays because we also have the Pellicor Mercenary for that flying tank in the front position, and our Mercenary does have heal. And also green has a lot of other really strong tanks, so while she is an option that we're very glad to have a copy of, we don't actually play her as often anymore since some of these other cards came out. Harvester is one that we did pick up a couple of BCX of over time while Untamed was still out, and we've got him up to level 2, but honestly I don't think I have ever played this game. or played this card, sorry. He does get a third damage at level 3, which is important, and then he gets Oppress and Enrage. To be honest, I feel like the only matter that levels after 3 is really 8 and then 10, because, well, y'all know how I feel about the Oppress. It's not all that great. It's so situational, and honestly, if you're hitting somebody that's not doing damage, then chances are you're already doing pretty good. There are definitely some of those ridiculous cards that it helps with, such as Gelatinous Cube, Bakjira, Kelp Initiate. There are good uses for Oppress, but you really have to know that your opponent is going to bring them, and I feel like that knowledge is relatively unreliable. I have not had any games where Oppress has actually made a difference. We have a level 3 gold vampire bat. We're definitely glad to have this little guy. Again, we don't use him all that much, but once we get him up to level 6 and get that dodge, I have a feeling that he is really going to start to shine in the same way that Chaos Agent does, just because he's a cheap kind of off tank that is super difficult to hit. And then we get him up to 5 speed with flying and dodge at max level, or even actually in gold at level 8. You can have 5 speed with flying and dodge, which makes him very difficult to hit, and he's got 5 HP for 3 mana, so it does make him a pretty good shot for just soaking up some potential damage. One of the cards that we hemmed and hawed on for a long while, and I'm very glad that we finally picked up a copy of, is a Mushroom Seer. That silence at 1 BCX is super powerful. The fact that he's got 2 magic damage and under Obsidian is going to have 3, also very relevant, and he is just a super powerful card. He does get much better at level 5 by gaining the poison, and at 6 gaining that 3rd magic damage. However, that does require a significant investment. I would say that he is worthwhile going up that far, but I don't think it is strictly necessary. The strongest part of this card is absolutely the silence and the magic damage, which is, of course, available at 1 BCX, and therefore I don't think you're going to be upset about having a 1 BCX for a good long while. We've got Venari Speedsmith in gold at level 4. Absolutely love this card. I can't wait to get 3 more copies, get him up to that level 5 so we can get that poison on there as well. And then once we can max him out and play him under a solid earth summoner maxed out, get that 4th damage is going to be huge. And I love the fact that he's so well rounded with 4 damage, 4 speed, and 4 HP. And then the Scavenge just working away on that and getting him to the point where he can be truly a powerhouse, especially with the new Fernheart Summoner, which I do not have, but I definitely see the utility there. Vampiric Blossom is another card with the Oppress that I don't particularly care about so much. But the Death Blow is definitely a nice combination with that. You have 2 potential ways to do double damage, and with that 3 range damage, that is, of course, not insignificant. And it's also very cool if you happen to be in a situation where, say, a poison match where the only thing that they have left is a Gelatinous Cube that is healing itself. All of a sudden you're popping out 12 damage per attack. It's going to be pretty rough for them to out-heal that kind of damage output. Again, he really shines under Fernheart, but I feel like this card is also very useful under any of the other summoners except maybe Obsidian. That's the primary reason I don't play this card all that much, is because as good as it is, it just does not perform well with the summoner, and for that same 5 mana, I can get 3 magic damage out of Regal Periton under Obsidian, And then we have the higher speed and the flying as well, making it a little bit more of a better tank. However, it does not have that opportunity to just drastically increase its damage output like that. And then, of course, we have Jin Bilkia, the first legendary that we ever pulled. And we've got Camouflage, Void, and Weaken now that we've got him maxed out. Again, we can't actually play it maxed out, but with 3 mana for 3 magic damage, and Obsidian will bump that to 4. This card is insanely strong. And I did at first... I kind of didn't like the Camouflage because I was using him on the back line and he would not protect my healers that way. But as I have learned more how to use Camouflage and take advantage of it, it's definitely a very worthwhile ability, especially on a card that is so weak in the HP area. And the Void I also kind of slept on. I thought it was relatively pointless on a monster that has such low HP because he'll still basically die from any attack that he takes damage from. However, I have had a couple of games now where I ended up winning because they had 3 monsters left that were only doing 1 magic damage, and so all I had left was my Bilkia, but I was taking 0 from them, and it's definitely not a common occurrence that you will finish the game like that, but the fact that it can be done is definitely not something to sleep on. And then we have not actually gotten to take advantage of his Weaken yet, again because we lack the max level summoner, but he is very strong even without it, and I can't wait to see him with it. And again, that 3rd magic damage becoming 4 under Obsidian is absolutely phenomenal. Moving on to Untamed, there are only a couple of cards here that we own, but they are very, very strong cards from Untamed. We have Sorcerer with the 2 magic damage, 5 HP, and Rust for 6 mana. We have Child of the Forest, who has Snipe for only 3 mana. Very fast monster with 5 speed, only 2 HP, but very useful in Little League matches. And then, of course, probably the single most necessary card out of all of Untamed is Unicorn Mustang. This is, simply put, the best tank to play in green when you know your opponent is going to be bringing magic. So, very strong card, got a couple copies of for that exact reason, and honestly, I wish I had more. However, he is definitely not cheap, $3 plus per BCX, and that's, not your single BCX points, but he does get that Magic Reflect at level 5, and then picks up Piercing at max level, a 5th damage at level 7, and 4th damage at level 3, and continues gaining health all the way through his leveling process. He stays at 4 speed, which is not a problem, honestly. He's a pretty solid tank, even at 4 speed, is faster than a lot of things, and is fast enough that even when he's not, he's still usually not going to have much of a problem hitting. That piercing is kind of nice, but in all honesty, if I were to build him, I would probably still stop at level 6 just to keep him at that 4 damage so you don't trigger Force Field, because you still get the Magic Reflect and you're at max HP. I feel like 6 is the ideal place to build a Unicorn Mustang to if you are looking to actually put that kind of investment into a card that is going to rotate. Speaking of cards that are going to rotate, we do have our level 3 Mylor, which we did go ahead and build up just so that we would be able to play our Minotaur Warlord at level 2 and have all 3 return damage abilities on 1 card with 2 healers behind him. It was very expensive to level up our Mylor from 2 to 3, and we feel kind of bad about the fact that we have a wasted BCX here because it was just more cost efficient to buy level 2 copies at 5 BCX and put them together rather than trying to buy the individuals. We are still trying to get 2 more level 2s so that we can actually take him up to level 4, and then we're going to stop and be happy with our Mylor for a long time, because we're not planning to take him anywhere beyond that. We also have a single BCX of Goblin Dartling. Actually, we have a bunch that are delegated to us as well, but we have one just so that we've got that option covered once my delegations are gone. And he is not something that we use very much, but it's nice to have a 2 mana option to throw in just at the end of your team selection process. Moving on to Gladius, our first ever usable gladiator. Catrelba Gobson is the first gold that we pulled, and she is absolutely phenomenal. If you have not pulled a Catrelba Gobson, I am so sorry. Even for a common, this card is just bonkers. I have seen her even on a single BCX gold. I have seen her go first hit, sneak damage, kill, bloodlust, second hit, sneak damage, kill, bloodlust, and then second round, sneak damage, kill, bloodlust, sneak damage, kill, bloodlust. When she gains 4 attack power in 2 turns and gains health and speed the entire way along, she just goes absolutely crazy. And then we did have the absolute insane luck to 4 Gladius cases in a row. We pulled Quora. Once we've pulled our first Quora, the next 3 cases that we opened all had Quora in them. So now we have a level 2 Quora that we have still not been able to use. Very much looking forward to Gladiator card tournaments, because we still do gold-only brawls and we'll never get to use her in a brawl. We also have Cutter Breeze, Paladon Rack, and Bertrall Gobson, none of which we have ever used, again, gold-only brawls. In Chaos Legion, we can see once again all of the rares and commons we have in gold foil, and most of them leveled up a little bit. So we have Mycelic Morphoid with the Thorns at level 5 with 5 BCX. Still only the 1 damage, but he's got 2 HP, 2 speed, and Thorns. So great to be able to deal that much damage for just 1 mana, even though he's usually not going to attack. Venari Knifer is another one that we love having those Thorns on if we're not going to be playing Mylor and we can be relatively certain that they're going to bring some melee, or just to put on the back line, or in a super sneak or melee from anywhere type of situation. Venari Knifer is a solid choice overall. We have him up to level 4, and we could pick up an additional damage by taking her up to level 10, and we also gain backfire at level 6. Definitely a worthwhile card to have. It's not the most important mainstay because it is not going to be used as often as some of your better tanks. However, it's definitely a great option to have access to. Venari Scout with a 2 damage, 3 mana opportunity play at level 4 is super strong. Also picks up the dodge at level 6 and gets a 3rd damage at max level. We also go up to 4 speed at level 8, and we do gain 6 HP overall once we push to max level or even level 9. This card is one that actually gets a relatively significant advantage at every single level, and I would definitely say it is a cheap enough card that you should pick up a few copies. It's 50 cents per BCX, even in gold foil, and it is definitely one that you're not going to use every single game, but it's going to be helpful when you do. Hill Giant is probably my single favorite card for Little League games. This tank is just ridiculous, even at low levels. Just a single BCX of gold foil means that he's got 2 damage and 7 health, and then once you get him up to 6, he picks up that stun, and I was in love with this card even before I knew that he had stun. This tank is just ridiculous in those low mana battles. And then at max level, he even picks up a 3rd damage, and he's up to 9 hit points. He's just ridiculously good for that low mana cost. Goblin Psychic, one of my favorite cards in the game, especially once I got him up to level 5 and started being able to take advantage of that affliction. A healer that stops your opponent's healer is a ridiculously powerful move. And then he also picks up Silence, which I have not been able to use, again, because I don't have the summoner level required. And then he picks up Dispel at the max level, stays at that 2 damage and 1 speed the entire time, but he does increase from 3 hit points all the way to 7, which is definitely a strong finish when your healer ends up moving into the front row and is still able to attack for 2 or even 3 magic damage and heal himself for 2 HP per turn while stopping your opponent from being able to attack, or stopping your opponent from being able to heal and also mitigating their magic damage. Goblin Psychic is a very strong card, and if you don't have him maxed out for your league, I feel like it is probably costing you some wins. Mycelic Slipspawn is my favorite taunt monster in the entire game as well. We have 2 magic damage up through level 5. At level 6, he picks up his 3rd. We have 2 speed for levels 1 and 2, and then he gets a 3rd and stays there. He never gets any armor, but does improve from 10 to 12 hit points, and he does also pick up Force Field, which is huge for a taunt monster. And the slow at max level, also very nice. Looking forward to getting him up there. That 3rd magic damage, definitely one of the key levels to get him up to level 6. We have Goblin Tower, who is another card that I absolutely love, especially in snipe rule sets or opportunity rule sets where you can make sure that he is not going to be hitting the first or last monster and will get maximum use out of that blast. The fact that he is dealing 3 damage means he blasts 2 damage both ways, and that is a super powerful play. And of course, as you level him up, his damage does become significant, going all the way up to 5 at max level, which would then blast 3 to each side. And he stays pretty powerful with the 5 armor and the 5 health as well. He becomes pretty reliable to actually put out a very strong amount of damage. Mycelic Infantry is my number 1 played tank for, or at least frontline tank for the Earth Splinter. Normally I run Mycelic Infantry in front and I run the Mycelic Slipspawn in the back, and that way I know any monsters that are using magic, unless they're very frontline, they're going to be not attacking my Mycelic Infantry, which allows his shield to really do a lot of work. There are arguments for Unicorn Mustang up front rather than the Mycelic Infantry, but I have found that for me, the Mycelic Infantry tends to be the better choice in a lot of circumstances, and it's just because I can draw that magic fire off of him by using the tank and allow that shield to really shine, whereas the Unicorn Mustang with the Void, if you're running the taunt along with it, your Unicorn Mustang is not being targeted by magic. He does pick up a 4th damage at level 3, a 5th damage at level 6, we get Giant Killer at level 5, and we get Enrage at max level, which is definitely going to be pretty huge with his 5 damage there. I do feel like he is actually worth taking up to that max level, even with the 5 damage, just to take advantage of that Enrage, making that 5 turn into 8, and that Giant Killer, the extra health, super strong as well. Definitely recommend going all the way on Mycelic Infantry over time. Of course, continuing with the gold only theme, we do have a level 5 gold obsidian. This was the first card that we wanted out of Chaos Legion. We pulled our first one after 3 packs and also got the Grund with it. That was super fun. Thank you to my lovely fiance for making that ridiculous pack happen. And we're going to go ahead and continue plugging away and try and get all of these gold Chaos Legion summoners up to max level, but that is going to be a process. We have Grund with a single BCX, and definitely want to get him leveled up to at least level 4. That 20 BCX is so key because it provides trample in addition to an extra damage and an extra HP, and of course double strike means that extra damage turns into 2 extra damage, and then that trample makes it just that much more efficient to where you could potentially be dealing 8 damage or 16 damage in one turn, even without the super trample rule set. And then picking up cripple at level 6 is nice, along with that 13th hit point. And once you are getting up there, of course, we're talking about diamond only, so your opponents are going to be playing much stronger cards as well. But the sustainability and the extra damage potential that he has makes him a very strong card. We have a level 3 Gold Hunter Jarks, which we love having 4 range damage on a snipe body. We've got 7 hit points on him for 6 mana and the 2 speed. That is kind of his weakness. He starts with 2 speed and never gains another all the way through, but that is somewhat mitigated by the fact that he does have True Strike. And I feel like the snipe means that you're probably okay taking him to max level and not having to worry too much about the force field. There will still be times where he hits an Oceanus in the second position or something along those lines, but I feel like he is worth going for that 5th damage, potentially, if that's something that you're interested in, just because this snipe makes it less dangerous to worry about that force field. Of course, I feel like stopping at level 5 is also a very valid idea for him, just so you are safe with that 4 damage, no having to worry about the force field. True Strike, meaning that 2 speed is less important. He's still got that 8th HP, and that way you don't have to worry about force field. Solid card all the way around. We have an Acid Shooter, and a lot of people really love this card. They've been having some great results with it. I have not. Of course, I only have a single BCX, so I'm fairly certain that that is why. However, that Scatter Shot combined with the poison ability that he gets at max level, I feel is one of those super powerful combinations, especially with him having that 2nd damage that he picks up at level 3. For 2 mana, that's just a lot of damage output. I feel like it is important to get him up to the level 5 as well if you're not ready to max him out yet, because that 5th HP is also going to be super relevant for you on that 2 mana monster. You don't want dying at super early. We do have a level 2 Queen Mycelia, which we put together primarily while we were building the Mylor Minotaur Warlord team, because we already had 1 Queen Mycelia, but getting 2 others gave us that amplify, and that is just absolutely necessary for that team. And she's just a beast of a card overall. At the next level, she gains Triage. At the max level, she gains Rust. Her stats stay the same the entire way through, and this card is just absolutely bonkers good, because you get armor out of it, you destroy your opponent's armor, you deal extra damage, and you heal your own team. She is super, super good, especially if you're running your main tank in the front line and then that taunt on the back line. You can run 2 healers and 2 triage and deal all magic damage under Obsidian. It's a very, very strong team to put together. Not the easiest and not the cheapest, certainly, but she is definitely a very strong card and absolutely worth including in any green deck. Fungus Fiend, of course, same thing about all of the Fiends. You want that level 1, absolutely necessary for competitive play, and you don't need level 2 or level 3. Once you get into Diamond, you do want that max level, because that slow is huge on a free monster, and it's just all added value. But again, there's no point in leveling it up at all until you can get 11 copies and have a max level summoner in Diamond. Eyes of the Fanged is another card that shines under Fernheart, and I have not used all that much in the meanwhile. The sneak damage and the scavenger working very well together, especially with some of the other archery monsters that we have available in Earth, and with that new summoner Fernheart. She does get up to a 3rd damage at max level, and she picks up the stun at level 3, both of which are huge. The extra damage at level 2, also very relevant. As you can tell, I'm not there yet. I very infrequently play with Isa, specifically because I do not have that Fernheart. I'm always running Obsidian in green, and she does not get the benefit of Obsidian, but she's still a very strong card that I'm glad to have, and as I continue to build out my green deck, I will focus more on the archery options and getting Fernheart set up to go, and she will become more and more valuable at that point. We have a level 3 Bramble Pixie, moving on to the Rift Watchers cards, of course, in gold as usual, and we love a 1BCX card that has 3 reach damage and 8 HP. And then as we get her up to level 6, getting that 4th damage at level 4, getting that 9th HP at level 2, getting that 3rd speed at level 5, and then the most important level here, level 6, picking up that heal. And of course, continuing to improve as we go through, picking up or keeping 4 damage all the way up through level 9, but picking up additional speed and HP. And this is another one of those cards where, since you are going to be attacking the front line, I think it might be a prudent choice to stop at level 9, keep that 4 damage, 4 speed, 10 HP, and not actually max it out and get that 5th damage, because that 5th damage could really bite you when your opponent is playing Force Field. I feel like any card that is going to be staying at 5 damage, you probably don't want to give it the 5th damage. If you're going to 6 or 7, then it's going to be worthwhile for you. If you have something like Enrage, or something else that is going to, increase that damage significantly, then it's worthwhile. But in most cases, I feel like stopping at 4 is a better way to go. Lycan Beast is one of those 4 max damage monsters, so you can take him all the way to max without having to worry about the force field. We start at 1 speed and we go up through 3, which with the Enrage will be 5. Not super impressive, to be honest, but it would have been a lot better with the original version, which replaced Enrage with replaced Knockout with Phase. I feel like this was a card that was better before those changes, but 4 damage at the top level with that nice 10 hit point pool and the Enrage means that he is a fairly solid choice for lower mana matches. Unfortunately, the 5 mana cost also means that he is not going to be available in the Little League matches, where he would undoubtedly be better than the Hill Giant. That would be where I would be most excited about using him. Ulaf Dampier is the next thing that we need to pick up in gold, because we absolutely love having that 3 range damage with the stun. The 8 HP on the back end is also pretty nice. And when he picks up Triage at level 5, again, this card just gets insane. Here's another card that I would stop leveling up at 7, just to not pick up that 5th damage because of Force Field. And I feel like he's already got everything else that he needs at that point. He's got that 4th damage, he's got the 3rd speed, he's got the 10th HP, and he's got the Triage. So that additional 30 copies needed to max him out and then potentially lose damage, I feel like is not actually worthwhile. Your investment would serve you better if you put it elsewhere. And then last but certainly not least for this video, we have the Suide Shaman in gold. Just a single BCX for now, but he does get super strong at level 6, gaining that third magic damage as combined with the giant killer that he got at level 4. So if you run him under Obsidian at level 6, he is 4 damage, and then because he is a recharge, that is triple damage every other turn, so that becomes 12 damage. The giant killer doubles the damage if they hit something that is more than 10 mana, more than 9, and therefore it is potential in the correct circumstances for your 8 mana monster to drop out 24 magic damage in one hit. And that, no matter how you slice it, is a powerful potential. Granted, it requires a lot to actually do that, and the rust that you get at max level with him is not exactly fitting to his playstyle, being, that recharge magic monster giant killer. The rust kind of just doesn't fit, but it's still a helpful ability to add to your team, even when it's not exactly perfectly synergized with the magic damage. Therefore, I think that he is a contender for maxing out, although that would not be my highest priority. I think level 7 is going to be pretty good for him as well, because you do get that 9th HP and you've still got the giant killer. You could even make an argument for stopping at 6 and just picking up that third magic damage, but that is definitely the most important level to get him to. Level 6, where you've got 3 magic damage and the giant killer, and he is super strong there. And then the rest is just bonus. That, of course, has been my green deck tech. Thank you so much for joining us. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Share the video. Help us to get the word out there. And we will see you on the battlefields of Praetoria.